I don't usually speak at this point in time in the service, but I want to speak at this point in time in the service. And some of you who are aware of what the Parsha is will know why I'm choosing to speak at this point in time in the service, and don't worry, I won't keep it a secret. This week, as I was thinking about what I wanted to teach, what I wanted to share with you, the thought in my head is like, please God, I just don't want to talk about politics this week. I'm just so sick of it. Sick of the moment, sick of the pressure, sick of the sadness. But how can I acknowledge the uncertainty and the fear that people feel when it's caused by this political moment? How can I walk into Shabbat without at least acknowledging that for all of us? You give me the privilege of sharing with me what's your lives and how you feel and what's going on and who has jobs and who's lost jobs and who might lose their jobs. You share that with me, and I'm grateful for it, and I try to honor it. And I don't know how to step into the Shabbat without talking about that, about dealing with that. But I refuse to be imprisoned by it, so what I'm going to do right now is I want to give a spiritual response to this political moment. And I want to talk about uncertainty. And I want to talk about what you do when you don't know what to do. And that strong sense that many of us have that somebody has to do something, but we don't know what that something exactly is to be done. What do you do? How do you handle it? Luckily, at the very least, this is the Parsha to talk about it. Like, because this is the one with the sea, right? The whole thing about Pharaoh's army, what's the story? Where are we in the Torah right now? The Jewish people and a bunch of other peoples have left Egypt to go free. But they're not going north, curving the Mediterranean, the shortcut to the Promised Land. They're going south. And for those who know the geography, they're heading sort of towards the Gulf of Aqaba to where Eilat is. And there's a marshy sea called Yam Suf right there. And they sort of end up in like the worst place possible. Their fronts are to the ocean, and to the north and south of them are geographical features that hem them in. And to their back, at their heels, is the Egyptian army with chariots, which is bad. Now, in phrase of our people, let it be said that there is no situation so dire that we can't give a really impressive kvetch about it. And by the way, in the Torah, so all the people, they turned to Moses, and somebody got, just the chef's kiss to the phrasing of this. They turned to Moses and go, does anybody know? Were there not enough graves in Egypt that you had to drag us out here? And by the way, it goes on for quite a while. At which point in time, Moses, it just basically says, just be quiet. Literally, he says, Tacharishun, which is a very polite way of saying, will you people please shut up? Stand there, and you're going to see redemption in front of you, because the Holy One has let Moses in on the plan, that this is actually like intentional, that they're there for a reason, and then something absolutely bizarre happens in the course of the Torah. And this is where the uncertainty comes in. This is where I'm asking you to lean in and pay attention, because at this point, Moses disappears from the narrative of the Torah. There is this hole where stuff should be happening and it's not happening. And the question is, where did Moses go? What's he doing? And really, based on all the evidence, based on very strong hints from the verse right afterwards, do you know what Moses is doing in this moment? He's praying. Which, I could imagine, some people might have some feelings about at that moment. Moses is praying. The Egyptian army is coming closer and closer and closer, and Moses is davening. He's praying. And I'm telling you right now, it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. And you know why? Because Moses knows that redemption is coming, but he doesn't know from where it's going to come. And God help him, it takes a measure of doing to stand there with an entire army marching down on you, even knowing that the Holy One is going to step in without knowing what the plan is. And Moses doesn't exactly know the plan, neither do the rest of the peoples, and he is afraid and uncertain. He's been promised that it's all going to be okay. But there's a big difference between promise and reality. You know what I mean? And so Moses starts davening. I think many people know the line from Heschel. He says, prayer may not save us, but it makes us worth saving. Has people heard this before? Does anybody know what it means? An intimation of what it's about, that line? What he's trying to say is that when you stand in a place of true prayer, something is pulled out of you that actually allows you to reach beyond yourself, to find new insight and new inspiration, and to ask for the help that you need. And I'm telling you right now, I know what Moses did in that moment. How do I know? I don't know. But I know what Moses did in that moment because I'm a davener, I'm a prayer. And I'm telling you, it looks something like this. The sea is behind him, and the people are screaming, and the cliffs are on the side, and he's facing the army, and all of a sudden he does what I do when I'm davening. He closes his eyes. And all of a sudden, the voice of God comes to him after he's asking, please help me. What's he shouting out to the Holy One? He's saying, please just show me the way. If only someone would show us the way. And the voice of the Holy One says, what are you calling out to me for? God has a sense of humor. He says, go forward. And at that moment, Moses turns around and he sees that a strong wind is blowing across the sea and the land is coming out. And the one place that he never considered that he would go, all of a sudden he starts going. The one path that he never considered was possible, he starts walking down. The one way that was totally hidden to him reveals itself. And you know why? Because he was facing the wrong direction. My experience is that when people experience uncertainty, what it largely brings out in human society is overwrought certainty. The more fearful we are, the louder the volume gets. And the more that people start to say, pound tables and desks and say, I know what to do. And the crazier their solutions sound. Because what they are searching for is a definitive way out. God bless the Reconstructionist movement for taking out the idea of messianism as a necessary part of Judaism, although there is, by the way, a messianic age that the I'm like going to get myself into trouble here. Because a lot of solutions that people put into moments of real uncertainty are messianic solutions, and they're bad. I don't know, why don't we just take an entire population and move it out of their ancestral home? That sounds great. But the seductiveness of that kind of talking is that it is final, it is certain, it ends the problem for all times, and that's why it draws people in. The promise of we will never have to worry about this again. That's why it's so seductive when people say things that you know are nuts. And then you see people following them because they promise certainty and an end to our suffering. But I'm telling you that the holy thing to do in the moment is to be like Moses. In general, he was great. And to be possessed of your own uncertainty. And to whatever divine you believe in, to call out, please show me the way. And to close your eyes. Because how will you know where to go if you're facing the wrong direction? Prayer is all about reorientation. It's not about asking a divine superpower to come and fix things for us. At most, it's about a simple nudge that turns us in the way that we ought to be going. And I will tell you as an article of faith, whenever I have asked for help in my life, when I don't know what to do, I have felt that nudge eventually. A whisper that says, "Did you look over here?" On Sunday, we're all going to come together. Many of you have signed up for this all-community meeting. And I'm sure that many are people hoping that we will come out knowing the way. You may even find yourself expressing that you do know the way. But the reason we're having not one but two of these meetings is before we do anything, we have to stop and listen and acknowledge our uncertainty of who the hell knows what to do in this moment. And to strain our ears for the voice of holiness that shows us something that we have not yet seen, that turns us in the right direction. And I want you to pray for it, because it's going to take everything that we have to see that glimmer of the unseen that will lead us through the narrow path to redemption. This is what spiritual practice is all about. Not knowing what to do, asking for help to figure out who we can be. Shabbat shalom. When they got to the other side of the sea, this is what they sang. Page 79.